They just cost less.
Pep Boys, we're car people.
Call 1-800-PEP-BOYS or go to pepboys.com to find the store nearest you.
Your extended forecast.
Ten till the top of the hour, you're watching the Weather Channel, and if you're any sort of longtime viewer of the Weather Channel or even a casual viewer, you're probably aware that at this time of the hour during hurricane season, we concentrate on the tropics with our tropical update, and we've seen some activity start kicking up out there, both in the Atlantic and the Pacific. Let's take the broad view here of the Atlantic first, and your eye is drawn to this spot right here. This is Hurricane Fabian. Now, it's still out in the middle of the Atlantic, but we are certainly monitoring it carefully as it progresses westward. Let's get the latest details. As of 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center, placing the center of Fabian about 1,000 miles east of the Lesser Antilles, which are the northern end here of this chain of islands, getting up around the Leeward Islands. Top winds 75 miles an hour. And it is moving to the west-northwest at 15 miles an hour. Estimated center pressure at 987 millibars. If you're tracking the lat-long coordinates, 16.5 north, 46.2 west. Right now, we'll take a look at the satellite picture, and if you look closely, you'll notice maybe what might be the beginnings of an eye trying to form. If you look here, right in the center here, see that right there? That may be the beginnings of an eye trying to form. We'll have to watch that, but looks like it has pretty good outflow. Right now, the forecast path does start taking it west of north at about a 290 compass degree heading. So as we look at our projected path here through the 3 to 5 day period, still, if you're watching from the Leeward Islands and heading over toward the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, you should be monitoring this situation carefully as Fabian heads eastbound, or rather westbound. And right now, we're watching it out in the middle of the Atlantic. Within the next couple of days, as it draws closer to the islands, the hurricane hunters of the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron will start flying missions out into it and obtaining more information about it, and the National Hurricane Center will then incorporate that into their forecasts. Now, there's another area that we're watching that's a little closer to home. That's the Gulf of Mexico. Tropical wave sliding its way westbound here through the Gulf of Mexico. Right now, is there a chance that something could organize in there? Yes. In fact, there's a scheduled flight by the hurricane hunters into this area tomorrow. But notice there's an upper-level low spinning here just off the mouth of the Rio Grande. That's not something that a developing tropical system wants to see. So hopefully we won't see anything develop out of it. But even if it doesn't, there's a lot of moisture out there, and we think that's going to start getting drawn northward into the central Gulf Coast. So it could be a very soggy time of it this weekend from Houston heading eastbound toward the Mississippi and Alabama Gulf coasts. Let's shift our attention a little farther west now and take a peek off the coast of Mexico. And here we find a couple of disturbances. There's one. We have to watch this one as it heads westbound, but we have to actually go farther westbound to get to the real story here in the eastern Pacific. That is another hurricane, Hurricane Jimena. As of 8 p.m. Pacific time, centered a little over 1,000 miles east-southeast of Hilo, Hawaii, moving to the west-northwest at 16 miles an hour, top wind speeds of about 100 miles an hour. And as we take a peek at this storm, looks very symmetrical, and you can also pick out a bit of an eye here in the center. And the current thinking on this one is that a ridge to the north of the Hawaiian Islands will build southward a little bit. Right now, the system's heading west-northwest. The current thinking forecast-wise is that we will see the path turning more westbound, and under the current thinking right now, still need to be watching this carefully, especially here on the big island of Hawaii, heading up toward Maui and Molokai. This could be a problem as we go through into the Labor Day time frame. Stay with us. Local on the 8s is next.
Evening Edition is sponsored by Simply Orange. Simply unfooled around with.
Good night, oranges. Sleep well, because no one here will ever flavor, freeze, or concentrate you. Unsweetened dreams. Discover Simply Orange. Simply unfooled around with.
Baked on, burnt on, greasy food. Tired of scrubbing, scraping, and soaking?
Your forecast. Your extended forecast.
It's 50 after the hour and time for our tropical update.
And we want to turn to our hurricane expert, Dr. Steve Lyons. And Steve, there's been a tropical wave that's been in the Gulf of Mexico. What's its impact today?
Well, right now it's sitting out in the Gulf, and most of the rain and impact is in the Gulf with the lightning, but it's going to be moving toward the Texas and Louisiana coast the next 24 to 36 hours. Let's have a look at it on a satellite image. Now, the wave axis is the line I've drawn here. The saving grace, so to speak, is this upper-level low-pressure system that's not budging and is fairly strong. And so the wave is going to undercut the low-pressure system. We think the wave will develop a weak low-pressure system, but not anything that's going to be significant. So the rain is going to be coming into Louisiana and primarily the upper Texas coast over the next 24, 36, and even 48 hours. But keep an eye on this area down here. If something forms farther to the east, then we could have some problems because there's a ridge of high pressure farther to the east. We've also got a hurricane out in the central Atlantic. This is our Hurricane Fabian. You can see it out here as of 5 a.m. this morning. 80-mile-per-hour winds moving to the west-northwest at 15 miles per hour. Still 960 miles east of the Leeward Islands, so it's a long way away from any land areas. Here's a close-up version of it. You can see the eye there. It's got a well-defined eye. We've been monitoring all night, and it's continuing on ever so slightly north of west drift. And so we expect it to continue in that direction and then take a little more turn more toward the northwest, north of the islands. Now the good news is it's relatively small, and the south side of the circulation down in here, there's not much wind. So most of the impact is going to be at and north of the circulation. So the circulation moves north of the islands, you're going to be in pretty good shape, even in the very northernmost islands. But keep an eye on this, because if it takes a southernmost track, we could have some pretty strong winds in there. Now out in the Atlantic, we're monitoring one other low-pressure system beyond our hurricane. This is Fabian right here. This low-pressure system is forecast to become a fairly strong low-pressure system over the next several days as well, and basically follow in the wake of Fabian. So we'll be monitoring that over the next several days, but that's even farther out. Now the Eastern Pacific is relatively quiet out here off of Mexico. You're in good shape. If you're heading to Hawaii, you've heard about Hurricane Jimena. There it is there. It's not very large. It has a well-defined eye moving to the west at 17 miles per hour. Here's the big island of Hawaii. Now what do we expect to happen in the islands? Well, typically from this direction we don't expect much impact. It'll come to the west and weaken. It'll cause some significant winds on the South Island here, especially the big island near the South Point. And it'll bring some high surf up along the east coast. So surfers, Makapu Beach, Sandy Beach, very high surf there. Watch out novice swimmers there, as that wave action increases to maybe 15, even 18 feet on some of the eastern-facing beaches the next 36 to 48 hours. The cone of uncertainty looks like this, and we always draw a scenario up to the north just in case. Bob, Melissa?
Oh, very active, Dr. Lyons. How about in the Western Pacific in that typhoon?
Well, that's right. We've got a typhoon out here, and it's moving down toward the Taiwan area, and we forecast to become a super typhoon over the next 2 to 3 days. So if you're heading toward Taiwan, keep your eyes on Dojin over the next 24 hours.
We shall. Thanks for your tropical update, Dr. Lyons.
Well, you want to stay with us because the forecast for your part of the country is coming up with Kelly Cass and Bill Keneally.
We'll have all the weather information you need to plan your Labor Day holiday weekend. And also, there's a check, I believe, of New York City. Chance of storms today, otherwise cool. And Kelsa Kinsley, Texas on the road, coming up.
I'm Stanley Johnson. I've got a great family. I've got a 4-bedroom house in a great community. Like my car? It's new. I even belong to the local golf club. How do I do it?
forecast for your area. On Monday, we'll have temperatures in the mid-70s with thunderstorms. Expect a chance of rain on Tuesday and Wednesday.
A new tropical depression developed in the western Gulf of Mexico this morning, and it may potentially strengthen to a tropical storm later today. Hello and welcome back to your tropical update. I'm Melissa Barrington. Let's go ahead and take a look in the western Gulf of Mexico, and you can see there's quite a bit of convection here and an elongated area of unsettled weather. We are looking at a tropical depression, and it's not very far from land, as you can see, not too far from the coast of Texas. Here's the latest coordinates on tropical depression number 11. It is currently positioned at 335 miles to the east-southeast of Corpus Christi, Texas. Winds at 35 miles an hour, and it's moving to the northwest at 12. Pressure is estimated at 29.77 inches or 1,008 millibars, and hurricane hunters are expected to travel into this tropical depression later on this afternoon. If it does strengthen by some chance later today into a tropical storm, its name would be Grace. Right now, though, the projected path is taking it into the southeastern coastline. However, with a depression, the track can be somewhat uncertain, so this is our cone of uncertainty here with the potential for landfall, possibly as early as tomorrow. Because of this, tropical storm warnings have already been issued from High Island, Texas, down towards Corpus Christi. It's not going to take very long for this tropical depression and tropical entity to work its way into the southeastern coastline. Here's a look at the visible satellite, and you can see that there's quite a bit of convection, and we're starting to see that there's maybe some banding trying to work its way around the system, but still it is becoming more organized as it's working into very warm temperatures, water temperatures that is. In fact, off of the New Orleans coastline here, the water temperature is at 88 degrees, so very, very warm. Notice here that there's a lot of shower activity that's already working its way along the Louisiana coastline. In fact, in New Orleans, the winds have been gusting over 35 miles an hour. Also around Biloxi, Mississippi, Biloxi. That is, we've also had some very gusty winds, Galveston too, as everything is trying to work its way towards the coastline. Flood watches are in effect here across the parishes of southwestern Louisiana and also into parts of extreme southeastern Texas for the potential for several inches of rainfall. Again, another perspective of the Gulf of Mexico. Most of the Caribbean is actually nothing is organized at this time. Across the rest of the Atlantic Basin, well, we have a couple other features to show you. We do have Hurricane Fabian, and we also have another area of disturbed weather that has come off the coast of Africa. This other system that has come off the coast, we will definitely have to keep a close eye on it. There is the potential for development with this system. And Fabian, at the end of your screen, let's show you another perspective of Fabian. It could potentially also strengthen as it continues on its westward track. Here's the latest coordinates on Fabian, currently positioned 855 miles to the east of the Lesser Antilles. Winds right now packing a punch at 100 miles an hour, and it's moving to the west-northwest at 14. Pressure is estimated here at 28.73 inches. Here's another perspective of Fabian. You can see it's becoming better organized. We're starting to see a center of circulation here as it's moving westward. The islands are right here at the very edge of your screen. And as we take a look at the projected path of Fabian, you'll notice here that basically we're taking it to the north of the islands, and we'll have to continue to monitor Fabian as we go ahead into the middle of next week. Right now, it is not expected to reach any landforms before that time. Otherwise, in the eastern Pacific, everything is actually fairly quiet. However, as we move over into the central Pacific, well, we have Hurricane Imena, winds at 100 miles an hour, and it's expected to pass to the south of Hawaii, and it's working its way to the west and staying at its current strength.
The flower has lost its power. You can have relief from sniffling and sneezing without drowsiness.
Expect a chance of rain Monday through Wednesday, with temperatures in the 70s on Monday.
Welcome back. I'm meteorologist Ebony Dion. It's 50 past the hour, and that means it's time to update you on the tropics. So welcome to the Tropical Update. Grace is continuing across the Gulf of Mexico, moving pretty slowly, but still definitely impacting the coastal areas of Texas. We're already seeing a lot of moisture associated with the system. All of that tropical moisture continues to surge northward, and it's pushing up along the coastal areas of Louisiana and Texas as we speak, and we could see rainfall rates up to about 4 to 6 inches, or maybe even 6 to 10 inches before it's all said and done in some localized areas. So really along the coastal areas of Texas, you'll really need to watch out. Tropical storm warnings are in effect. Here's the latest on Grace. It's moving to the west-northwest, again, pretty slowly at about 10 miles per hour. Winds are about 40 miles per hour, and it's located just to the east-southeast of Corpus Christi, nearly 300 miles southeast of Corpus Christi. Here where we have the tropical storm warnings in effect between Corpus Christi and High Island, Texas. What this is indicating is that we could see tropical storm conditions within the next 24 hours. The projected path of Grace, well, it looks like it's going to make its way and across the coastal areas of Texas, or making landfall sometime Sunday. Looks like early Sunday afternoons when we're expecting to see it really making its way onshore, and then eventually continue to push out into the Labor Day holiday. So what that means is plenty of wet weather anywhere from parts of northeastern Texas all the way down into the Texas Hill Country. So definitely be on guard for that. As we head out a little bit further east, we have an area of disturbed weather just off the coast of Africa that we're certainly keeping an eye out on, and also Hurricane Fabian. And here it is, continuing to spin its way through the Atlantic. The latest on Fabian, well, it's making its way off to the west at about 14 miles per hour. 775 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. We are expecting this to make its way mainly to the north of the islands and even around the Caribbean area. Not expecting to see much of an impact as of now, but still keep an eye out. We could see high surf as we get into the next few days. Now in the eastern Pacific, we have disturbed weather just off the coast of Mexico, and here we'll just continue to monitor this, not really seeing anything really organized at this time. But a little bit further east, we have Hurricane Jimena, and that is making its way towards the Hawaiian Islands. Here you can clearly see the eye on Jimena, although it has tightened up somewhat. You can still clearly see the eye on that system. So pretty neat shot of Jimena. The latest on Hurricane Jimena, well, it's making its way to the west at about 20 miles per hour, and it's just about 800 miles east-southeast of Hilo, Hawaii. Winds are about 105 miles per hour. Now here's the projected path of Jimena. It should make its way westward, and it looks like it's going to clip just along the southern edge of the Big Island. So here looks like we could get in on some wet weather along with some windy conditions, and then also high surf. Well, in the western Pacific, we have Typhoon Dewan, and that's making its way in towards Taiwan. So sometime Monday, we could expect to see more wet weather along with windy conditions in towards Taiwan as we get into the next few days. So definitely keep an eye out on that. Well, across the rest of the nation, here are the areas where we're expecting to see storms. Already seeing isolated severe storms picking up across the mid-Atlantic and parts of the Northeast. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Runnels County, and that's in Texas, just to the northeast of San Angelo.
Well, the situation with Tropical Storm Grace is changing quickly, so this is not the time to leave the Weather Channel.
You'll want to stay tuned. I'll have the latest information on that and the forecast for Sunday right after this. Stay with us.
You'd never hear this from John, but he owns the best car repair shop in town. He's got a well-deserved reputation for getting it right the first time. He listens to his customers. He uses top-quality Napa parts, and he backs up his work every time. Now, as much as we'd like to take credit for it, a shop like John's isn't this good because there's a Napa sign out front. Fact is, there's a Napa sign out front because John's shop is this good.
Visit the Napa Auto Care Center or Collision Center nearest you, or call 1-800-LET-NAPA.
It's a revolution. Allergy relief has come of age. Today,
the forecast for your area.